Hi guys, purpose of this video today, as you can tell, I'm not in the desert, I'm down at the training center, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the equipment that I have purchased since I started doing off-road driving. Most of it is safety equipment, some of it is rescue equipment, and some of it is equipment that just makes life a little bit more convenient. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the back of the car to show you how to safely store your equipment. Okay guys, before I start letting you see the individual bits of equipment, the first thing I'm going to let you see is you can see there that there's a cargo net there. So any equipment you have in the back of your car needs to be properly secured, because when you're going over dunes, if you go a little bit too fast and things, you can have equipment flying inside the car, and some of it weighs quite a bit. So make sure you have all of your equipment properly secured. Okay guys, this is all the equipment that I have bought specifically for off-roading. So what I'm going to do now is just going to sit down and I'm going to take you through these one at a time, explain why I bought them, which ones were good purchases, which ones not so good purchases, and any that I intend to change. Okay guys, one of the first things I bought was a pair of boots, specifically designed for the desert and for rock crawl. Why did I buy these? The first couple of times I went out in the desert, I was just wearing trainers, and you end up with a foot full of sand as soon as you step out into the desert. With these, you can see you have a side zip that seals it all the way up to the top. If you can get it to work. There you go. Clip on there. The tongue is built in, so up to about here is completely sealed. So as long as you don't have sand going up much, about 3/4 of the way up the boot, you're not going to have any sand in. The other thing is, obviously when you're rock crawling, you're walking over rocks, etc., the last thing you want to do is go over an ankle and be struggling to drive. So these give you great ankle support when you're going in. They were, I don't know, relatively expensive. I think they cost me about 450 dirhams, but well worth it. Every time I go driving in the desert, I make sure I'm wearing these. Okay, one of the most crucial things you need to buy for yourself when you're going to be driving off-road is one of these. Now, this is quite simply, it's a flag. You can see, because I'm Scottish, I'm wearing the Scottish flag. Great result by the boys last night. They won 2-0, which means they've made it to the World Cup qualifiers. So we're 2 matches away from qualifying from the World Cup. Now, this one comes in 2 parts. The reason I bought this one is because it actually fits horizontally across the back of my car. So I can actually put it in the back of my car, no damage. You see, sometimes you see cars driving around with a one piece and it's bent permanently on the back of the car. After time, that bend becomes permanent, it can crack, it's just not good. With the 2-piece, you can see, if I go back over here, now I'm about 5'10", but you can see here that this is almost twice my height. And because of its positioning on the car, it would actually even be higher than this. When you're going over the dunes, you want the people behind you to know where you are. So quite often, the car will disappear from view as you go over the dune. Without a flag, you have no idea whether that person in that vehicle has cleared the dune or whether or not they've got stuck as they came down. With the flag, it's just monitor the flag. You can see the distance, you can see if they're continuing to move, you can see if they've come to a stop. And then you can use the next piece of equipment to clarify what the situation is. Okay guys, this is the next thing you need to get yourself, a walkie-talkie. Now, various clubs will have preset frequencies that they use. In this particular instance, my club has, I think it's 14 preset frequencies, so I've put those in there, and then you can just swap between frequency 6, 7, etc. This is very, very important piece of equipment. When you're in a convoy, you'll have the marshal at the front, you'll have the second lead, and then you'll have all the people in the convoy, and you'll have a sweeper at the back. The job of the sweeper is to let the marshal know when the convoy is rolling. If someone's got stuck and they have to have a second try, we can let the marshal know so the marshal doesn't just keep on driving off into the distance. The two pieces of equipment for newbies to buy first, I would say the flag and the radio are the two most important. The rest of the equipment you're going to see here, we don't actually expect the drivers to start to bring that equipment until they've got up to the intermediate level. However, it's always best to have your own equipment. As a rule of thumb, if you're in the desert and you get stuck, you should not have to rely on someone else's equipment to get you out. You should have your own equipment to get you out, and then, you know, no one's having to think, oh, I bought this but I'm just using it for him. Okay, so flag and radio, probably the two most important things to buy when you first start off-roading. Next item on the list is a set of gloves. Now you can see here that these are protective gloves. They've got good insulation on the fingers and palms. Often if you need to work on your car in the desert, it'll be hot. It'll be very hot in some occasions. And then you add the heat from the engine, so you want to protect yourself as much as possible. Also, even if you're just having to lift up a jack to replace a popped out wheel, you don't want your hands getting covered in the grease, etc. So it's really useful to have some protective gloves to both keep your hands clean and protect them from when you're actually working on your car. Okay, next thing you need is one of these. Now, this is an ARB air system, and this is what you use to deflate your tires. Now, I paid way too much money for this. It is a very, very good quality one. ARB probably makes some of the best off-roading equipment you can buy. However, this has one purpose, and that purpose is to let the air out of your tires to a certain pressure. So do you really need a top quality piece of equipment to do that? It's never let me down so far, but as you can see, there is a fundamental flaw with this, and that is it can only do one tire at a time. And there are 4 tires that you need to let the air down on. So I was very fortunate. We were off in the desert yesterday actually, and I met this gentleman whose name escapes me. I know his first name is Jan, J-A-N. And Jan works for a company called offroadhose.com. Now, they have a fantastic system that allows you to connect all 4 of your tires at the same time. They provide all the hoses for that. It also then is connected to a digital pressure gauge with a valve. So once the 4 tires are all connected and the valve is closed, the tires will balance the pressure between each other in a closed system. Then you just simply open the valve, let the air out of all 4 at the same time, stop in occasionally, check the pressure on the digital gauge. When you got the right pressure, close the valve, take all 4 hoses. And exactly the same thing when you're inflating. You connect the other end of the digital valve onto your compressor, and you can blow up all of your tires to exactly the same pressure at the same time. The one issue that you would probably have with that is it's going to take you longer to blow up all 4 tires at the same time. Now, in reality, the time should be the same, but you don't have all the messing about of taking off the feed from your compressor and putting it on the next tire. So it should actually save you time. But it will seem like it's longer because it's blowing up 4 tires instead of just 1 at a time. So I've just ordered the 4 hose system. I believe the cost is about 500 dirhams. So my wife and daughter don't know this yet, but that's my Christmas present from them. And I ordered it today, and hopefully it'll be delivered before I go out to the desert next weekend. But I'm going to keep this one. Always useful to have a backup in the systems that you have. So this is very good. It's been very reliable. So if anything were to happen to the new system I'm going to buy, it's nice to have a backup. Okay, another thing that's very useful to have, not so much for rock crawling, but certainly for going into the desert, is one of these. So what is this? It is a spade. Now, this one you can see folds very, very small. it's got quite a small spade area here, but it's better than the traditional method, which is to use your hand. Okay. Now, if you don't have a spade, these work perfectly well. They'll just take you a little bit longer. So a very, very useful thing to have if you find yourself stuck and you need to dig your tires out. These are great. And as I said, this one is very small, very, very compact. And when it folds up, it doesn't take a lot of space in your car. So very useful little tool, and not expensive. You know, you can pick these up for maybe 60, 70 dirhams, something like that. So spade is the next thing on the list. Okay guys, now the next thing you need to get yourself is this setup here. What we have here is a kinetic energy recovery rope. Now, this is not a tow rope, okay? And if I take it out very quickly, you'll see that it is round. It's not like the yellow ones you see sold in Carrefour and places like this. Now, this is a kinetic rope. Now, what does that actually mean? It means that when you tow, when you're pulling something out of the sand, this will stretch. So initially, neither of the cars will really be moving that much. The one that's pulling out will be, but this will stretch and it will take up the tension before it pulls out the other vehicle. If you go to the video I showed you on basic recovery, you'll see, not this one, but you'll see one of these being used when I recovered one of my friends from the drive club that I go with. Now, the other thing you need to check on this is you need to check the ratings, etc. So this is a Ditch Pig kinetic energy recovery rope. It is 7/8 of an inch wide, and this is a 20-foot length. So you tend to come in 20-foot and 30-foot lengths. I got the 20-foot length. Again, I bought this when I just started. I'm not sure that this is the best one I should have got. The other thing is you can see that this one is rated to 24,700 pounds or 11,200 kilograms. I've got a feeling in the back of my head that I should have got the 30-foot one and one with slightly less of a rating on it. Because if the rating's too high, when you put it under pressure, it won't stretch as much as it should do before it starts to pull. I've not had to use this one in anger yet, so fingers crossed that when I eventually do use it, it'll be fine. If I have any problems with it, I may well change this for a slightly different one. Now, the other thing you need to do when you're using one of these is you need to have shackles. Now, these are what are known as soft shackles. Very simply, you just loop them into your tow point on your car, you open up this knot, and then it comes out. You put the big knot in there, put it under pressure, and that's not going to come anywhere. So I've got two of those, obviously, one for connecting to the car that's being towed and one that's being connected to the car that's not being towed. Now, in a lot of cases, if you have hooks like you do on the Wranglers, you don't actually need to use these shackles. You can connect this directly onto the hook. But it's always good to have shackles because not everyone will have that setup on their vehicles. The alternative to this is you get the metal shackles. Now they come like a U, and they'll have a bolt that goes through them and it screws into the other side of the U. Make sure when you buy these, you check the rating on the shackle itself. It'll be printed on there. If it's not printed on there, it means you're looking at a cheap copy and you've got no idea what the tolerances of that are. So don't buy anything that doesn't have the rating on it. I'm a big fan of the soft shackles. If for whatever reason the rope snaps or the towing point breaks, this will come shooting off at you under a great deal of pressure. Now, if that's made of metal, it will make a hell of a mess of anything it hits, either the vehicle or you. There are some videos on YouTube. You can go and you can see people experimenting to show you what happens when a metal shackle comes shooting off a car. So I'm a great believer in these. Also, my car is only a two-door Rubicon. It doesn't weigh a lot. It's not like it's a big truck that's going off into the desert. So to get my car out, I have the right equipment to do it. So, but it's entirely up to you. If you've got a big truck, you might want to have the metal shackles, because obviously they can be rated higher than these can. Okay, so another thing that you need. Now, if you're going out driving in a group, chances are everybody will have this sort of setup. But you need to have your own, as I said, rule of thumb, make sure you've got the equipment to get yourself out of trouble. Okay, so recommend these. Next thing is this. So what is this? All right. If you have to jack up your car for any reason, and you've got the standard scissor jack that most cars come with, they have a very, very small base plate. If you start winding that up in the sand, what will happen is it will just bury itself down into the sand. It doesn't have enough of a plate to have the area to be able to push upwards. So this is a jacking plate. Okay. Now, this one wasn't particularly expensive. It doesn't need to be a pre-made one like this. You could just have a block of wood. As long as it's thick enough, that'll do the job. I've seen people that have got the materials that are used to make aeroplanes, the airplane fuselage. I've seen that. I've seen bits of wood that I've made with a groove. You can see here on the top, it's got a plate so that when the jack is put on there, it can't slide about too much. I've seen people do it with wood. The other thing which I've seen this put in use to, and this is becoming more and more popular, is if you turn it upside down on the sand, you have a great landing platform for your drone. So if you're planning on doing some drone flying when you're out there, it's great to have that as your platform so your drone doesn't land in the sand. Okay? Right, the next thing you need to get yourself, well, to be honest, you don't need to get this. It's recommended, but a standard scissor jack with a base plate, I've seen do a perfectly okay job getting cars jacked up while you're in the desert. But this is a cylinder jack. It is a Yato, and it's rated for 12 tons. So this can lift up 12 tons to a maximum height of 465 millimeters. So that's about half a meter. The minimum it will go down to is obviously this measurement here, which is 230 mil. But then think about it, if you've got this and then you put it on top of here, you've also got that distance as well. So be careful with these, make sure you get the right one. The beauty about having the Wrangler is the Wranglers use solid axles. So you can actually put this underneath the axle and lift it up that way rather than try and find a jacking point. So very, very good for that. The other thing, of course, is if you're struggling to get it under your jacking point, you've got your spade. You can just dig the sand out a little bit so this is low enough that you can get it in there. There are lots of different options. One, you said you can keep your scissors jack, not the best. And the other thing, of course, with the scissors jack is because all the threads are shown, if you get sand on it, it's a really hard job to do it. You also get the standing jacks. I'm not quite sure what they is. You often see them on the back of vehicles. Everyone you speak to has an opinion on this. The reason I went for this one is because most of the marshals that have been teaching me how to drive off-road, this is the setup that they use. So as I said, really, really good setup. You have this. In most, I can't think of a single scenario where you wouldn't be able to jack your car up with this in order to, you know, if your wheels popped or whatever it is you need to do. So jack and jack base plate, really useful stuff. Next thing you need to do is obviously when you go off-roading or you go rock crawling, desert bashing, whatever it is you're doing, you usually need to let the tires out of your, the pressure out of your tires. A lot of people will have a portable standalone compressor. Mine is actually built into the rear door of my car. It's a Mopar compressor that is an option you can have when you buy it. But obviously you need to have the hoses in order to inflate your tires. Now this will do 2 tires at a time, but as I said, the new system that I've just ordered will actually allow me to connect all 4 of the tires to the compressor at the same time and blow them all up at the same time. And because it's a linked system, the pressure will equalize around the tires. So whatever pressure is in one is in all of them. The other thing I liked about it is because this has a digital pressure gauge, you can tell exactly to, I think it's 0.1 of a PSI, what pressure you're putting into the car. Now, some people, yeah, okay, whatever, 36, 37, 38, doesn't matter. I don't know, it's just one of my things. I like to know that my tire pressures are at the right gauge, which in my case, cooled down, they need to be 37 psi. So with this new system that I've ordered, again, I won't be getting rid of this. It will be just a backup system, just in case one of the hose purges or something goes wrong with it. But my new system will be able to deflate and inflate all 4 tires at the same time. So it'll just be a lot more convenient for me when I'm going to go off-roading. So another thing, you need a compressor and the hoses to go with it. The next bits are just nice to have things. So, cable ties. One of the 7 wonders of the modern world, cable ties. Now, if cable ties don't do it for you, the wonder that is duct tape. I was once told that there are only 2 things you need to fix a car. If it's moving and it shouldn't be, you use duct tape. If it's not moving and it should be, you use WD-40. But I do have a can of WD-40, but I took it back to the apartment for something, so I haven't got that with me at the moment. But WD-40, duct tape, cable ties. Very, very useful stuff to have. Now, this next thing was given to me by a friend of mine, Rick. Now, Rick is actually a paramedic, and one of the things that they say you should have with you is a first aid kit. Now, this has various bandages, salves, ice packs, burn gel, more moths, and all sorts of useful little things to help you if you get yourself into a situation where someone has been injured. Now, I am not a medic by any sorry, I just dropped one of the bandages. I'm not a medic by any stretch of the imagination, but if somebody's got a burn, they've burned themselves on the exhaust system when they've been under the car, whatever, having a gel that you can put on it straight away should minimize the damage. Having bandages, just all the things you would do for, you know, mistakes, scratches, whatever's happened. Always useful to have that. And because I'm Scottish and Scottish people don't do well in the sun, I always carry Factor 50 suntan screen. So this stuff has been a lifesaver for me on many an occasion. Always have a hat. You've seen my hat, it's got the brim around it. The first few times I went out, I thought, I've got a hat, I won't need to. But because it was a baseball cap, the top of my ears got really badly burned. So then I started using this stuff, and it's like you can be out there for hours and literally nothing gets through it. So get yourself whatever factor you need. As I said, coming from Scotland, we've got very pale skin, so I've actually got factor 50 here. So medical kit and a good sunscreen, really useful when you're going to be going out into the desert. Okay guys, that's about everything. There's still some things I need to purchase, which I haven't done yet. One of them is I need to get myself a pretty good toolkit. Not a big one, but one that has everything that you need for emergency repairs on the cars. I was thinking about maybe getting a selection of different size circlips as well, in case one of the hoses needs to be replaced or something like that. If you watch some of the other off-roading channels, you see when they're doing hardcore stuff, particularly in the United States, you'll see that they have TIG welders, I think they're called, and they you know, they can literally almost rebuild a car out there on the trails. I haven't gone that far, but the list of stuff that I've shown you, it's not inexpensive. But if you're going to be off-roading, cost comes with your sport. I mean, the cost of your vehicle alone will be expensive. So my view is that if you're going to be doing this sport, you should have the proper equipment and not just rely on other people hopefully having the right equipment to help you out when you get in trouble. All right. Anyway, guys, that's everything. Hope you enjoyed that. When I get the new system from Off-Road Hose, I will actually do a review just of that system and let you see how it works. Hope you found this interesting. Hope I hasn't scared you off the sport because you think you're gonna have to buy too much stuff. When you add it all together, I mean, I didn't buy this all at once. You know, every couple of weeks I would add something else. But I would say, get your flag and get your radio as a matter of course. Even if you're going out for your very first run, make sure you get those before you go. It's okay that you'll go on the drive, it won't be a problem, but as someone who's been a sweeper and has had people in front of me that don't have a flag, it can be very off-putting to not know where the vehicle is as you're coming over the brow of a big dune. So recommendation from me was definitely get your flag and definitely get your radio before you go on your first drive. Okay guys, hope you found this interesting. I wish I had something like this when I started buying stuff, because then I might have saved myself a few pounds, or dirhams as the case may be. But hope you enjoy it, and the next video I'll post will be another run. I did an intermediate run yesterday, which was absolutely fantastic. Everybody there was at the same level. We spent about 3 hours driving in the desert, and the only times we stopped was for coffee breaks and to help a newbie group that had gone out in the desert, and we needed to give them a little bit of help. The rest of the time we just were driving, there was no stopping, nobody was getting stuck, it was fantastic. So I'll post some of the videos up of that one very soon. Alright guys, thanks for watching, speak to you soon.